Okay, I'm working on a curved turnout. Actually, it's 3 curved turnouts. I'm doing it all as one unit, one assembly. I've been using the Fast Tracks printouts, the templates from the website. This is a number 6. Not sure if you can see that. Number 6. Outside is 36 inch, inside's 24. That's the first one. The next 2 are the same. Number 6, 30 inch and 21 inch. Again, 30 inch and 21 inch. So you got the 30 inch on the outside, 21 inch on the inside. These are being used. These are all left-handed turnouts. They will be used going into the 4 staging tracks, or I guess you would say 3 staging tracks and a runaround track for continuous running if I wanted to. And as of right now, I take the PC ties, they're all scored, everything's soldered in place already for the stock rails and the frogs, the verging roots and everything, which eventually become stock rails later. That's all done. They're all soldered in place. I just started filing my first point. It's all code 70 rail. I put a dab of CA glue. I use the Gorilla Glue from the Gorilla Tape Company, Gorilla Glue Company. Just put a little dab on each end, that little tab here, a little dab there. Find it a little more secure than just putting a small dab in the middle. You don't want to glue the whole thing, it's a real pain to get the paper off and stuff, so tiny little dab, it holds all the ties onto the templates while you're soldering everything in place. Then I just glued the whole 3 template assembly right to my workbench. You can see here, it's a very neat workbench. I'm not sure if you can smell the sarcasm in that or not. I've seen worse, but I've seen a lot better. So my next job is to do the points. So there'll be 6 points all together. I have the guardrails all bent. I use the Fast Tracks Jigs over here. These things are great. This is for doing the guardrails. That's the length that you need. And then here's the angles, one above, one below. You can see the videos on YouTube and on their website and stuff on how to do this. They have tons of how-to videos. This is a dual gauge, narrow gauge on left template. I also have the dual gauge, narrow gauge on right template. So I'll be set for pretty much any situation that comes along. I can make number 6s, this is all number 6s, both of them. I can make narrow gauge turnouts, I can make standard gauge turnouts, I can make the dual gauge turnouts in both versions, or all 4 versions I guess you would say. I can make the narrow gauge and standard gauge in the straight. The diverging root can come off as a narrow gauge or just strictly a standard gauge. There's tons of different options and variations that I can do with these templates. I went all out. I figured number 6 is pretty much the most popular. It doesn't eat up a lot of space, but it's also not super tight radius. They're working out great. Since these are number 6 straight turnouts, I still use the frog areas. I solder them in so I can solder my frog rails, and then I just have a curve to them so that I put them on the curved templates. It makes the soldering the frogs a lot nicer. I think a little bit more accurate, a little tighter. They're turning out pretty good. I've also filed in the area where the points meet the stock rails. Filed that so that the rail sets into place there, makes a nice fit. Some of the tools you need: a file. There's a mill bastard file, I think it's 10-inch. Nicholson is the company. I ordered this at the local hardware store. I use small, like jeweler files. The flat one is a good one to have, and the triangular one, which is here. It's a triangular profile. Not sure if you can see that or not. Has a slight taper to the end. I use this almost like an awl also. I'll use it as an awl while I'm soldering. I'll hold the rail down to the PC board ties so they make nice contact. Very important when you're doing, especially templates, you need some gauges. This is a Chemtron. These are my favorites here so far in my infancy of laying handlaid track and turnouts. I also have a KD version here. This one does code 100 and code 70 depending on what side you use. These Chemtron, this is just code 70s, but they have the narrow gauge and the standard gauge, which is nice. Rail cutters, a must. You gotta have these special rail cutters. Don't use regular old nips. You can't use like little dikes or anything like this. That just you get a nasty cut. The rail cutter is nice straight edge. Just make sure you point the right direction. Always cut with this side against the good side that you want to keep. The beveled side here, you want to, that's the scrap rail. Tape, painter's tape. As you can see, I tape the templates down. I'll tape rails in place while I'm soldering, just so you know they're not exactly perfect until they are soldered. So it kind of just helps it stay in place. Some brushes. This is a brass brush. I have stainless brushes. Brass brush I use. It helps clean up, like the frogs and stuff, cleaning them up and stuff after the soldering. I have stainless steel brushes. That works well also. This, sometimes I'll just get some of the debris or stuff, like if I'm using a track cleaning here. And I get the little debris that's left over, I'll brush that out of the way with this nylon brush in. Flux is a must. Electrical flux. My daughter likes to play with this stuff. Fun stuff. That makes the wonderful smoke and smell when you're soldering. Real fine solder. This came with the kit from Fast Tracks. Let's see. Just says small diameter. Doesn't tell me the actual diameter. You might be able to look that up on their website. I think it's handlaidtrack.com, or on here it says fast-tracks.net. Fasttracks.net. I'm not sure if you can see that. I really need to get an HD video camera. I always use my regular camera with the video option. I just don't get the quality I really should. And extra soldering tips. You want to keep the soldering tip pretty clean. And speaking of soldering guns, I don't have one of the heavy duty ones. I have a Weller. It's a 25 watt. That works. Again, just keep your tip clean. I sponge it off. Sometimes I actually use the brass bristles on the brush to clean it off. I'm trying to find a brass scouring pad, like in the cleaning aisle, the kitchen aisle, cleaning aisle type stuff. You know, hardware store usually. You might be able to find them at a grocery store possibly. But I would, once I find that, I'll get rid of the sponge and just have the scouring sponge there. It has to be brass. You stick that in there, cleans it right up. It works real well. Tape measures, or what else do we need here? Scale ruler sometimes comes in handy. This tool is invaluable. This is the Fast Tracks. They call it a point form tool. I do the points on it, frogs, and since it is a dual gauge kit, I also do the toads, which are the weird, I guess, anti-frogs. They're the opposite of the regular frogs. On dual gauge turnouts and stuff, you'll need the toad. It's a real sharp point that just goes into where the let's see if I can find that on here. Your toad is going to be pretty much like in this section here. You'll get one there, and I think there's another one up in here somewhere. But that's the anti-frog. But I'm pretty happy how this is turning out so far. I've done individual curve turnouts. I've done narrow gauge, standard gauge, all individual turnouts. This is my first multi-unit, and I'm using again the templates from Fast Tracks. Great website. They work out wonderful. I print out all different sizes: 4s, 6s, 4.5s, 5s, 7s, 10s, 8s, whatever they want, whatever you want. They got curves, straights, Ys, crossovers, crossings, gauntlet tracks if you're doing 2 tracks into one. Alright. Thanks for watching.